Alright guys, so today's word is very similar to yesterday's word, but as you guys notice on the title it says Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to use our Pythagorean theorem. I know for yesterday I mentioned that yesterday I told you guys that a diameter cuts a chord in half. So if this side right here is 10, I'm going to say this other side right here is also 10. Okay, because I said I know a chord that's cut in half. So having that said, I'm looking at just one triangle. You guys notice I'm looking at this triangle. I know two sides. I need to find the third side. And that's where I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem, which you guys might call it a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the way I'm going to write this, I'm going to go x squared plus 10 squared is equal to 10.6 squared. Notice that the one that I left by itself, the 10.6, is the biggest of the three sides. Alright, so let me get a calculator for this. I know 10 squared is 100. And I know 10.6, according to the calculator, it's 112.36. So let me write this as x squared plus 100 is equal to 112.36. I just did the square. I'm going to move the 100 to the right side, but I'm going to move it as a negative 100. So I'm going to get that x squared is equal to 12.36. Right, I just subtracted that. So x should be the square root of that. And I get 3.5. I did round out to the nearest tenth. In instruction it says round your answers to the nearest tenth if necessary, so one decimal place. My answer. Notice how the 12.36, I didn't round it. I rounded the answer. So I said I got 3.5. I said round it to the nearest tenth. Let me take a look at question number 2. If I look at one triangle, that triangle, one side is 19.1, the other side is 8.5, the third side is x, the hypotenuse in this case is x, so I'm just going to go 8.5 squared plus 19.1 squared is equal to x squared. Once again, the one that I have by itself is the hypotenuse, which is the longest side of the three. So I had to figure out what's 8.5 squared, and I had to figure out what's 19.1 squared. According to the calculator, I get 72.25 for 8.5 squared. For 19.1 squared, I get 364.81. I can easily combine those. So I'm going to get that 437.06 is equal to x squared. So x should be the square root of that. And I get 20.9. Use your logic to kind of like double check your work. I know one side is 8.5, the second side is 19.1. I know the hypotenuse has to be a little bit bigger, so 20.9 sounds about right. If I had something like, I don't know, like 45, that would be too much. Like I said, use your logic to kind of double check your work, to check your answer. Let me skip to number 4. All right, so let me take a look at number 4. So looking at number 4, I have that this side is 10.1, this short side is 5.9, And this other side, I know it's x, because remember my chord gets cut in half, so I know that side is x. So let me circle my hypotenuse, that way I know which one is it. So the way I will write this will be x squared plus 5.9 squared is equal to 10.1 squared. I think from there you guys can take it off, right? Like this. You guys can finish it. Just let me skip a little. Let me take a look at question number 9. I'll flip the page. The reason why I'm looking at question number 9, because the circle is not quite complete. I mean the triangle. Once again, the triangle number 9 is not quite complete. So I'm going to complete it. And the way I'm going to complete it will be by drawing that little segment there. I know that segment is is actually the radius, right? Because I started at the center, and I know the length of the radius is 13.8. I said I completed the triangle. Then and I know this side right here is 11.1, right? Because the chord gets cut in half. I just don't know how big is this side. I'm not going to call it x because I'm already using the letter x. So let me call it y. Because I don't know how big is it. So now, let me complete this triangle. I'm going to go y squared plus 11.1 squared is equal to 13.8 squared. Okay, I came out with a y because I don't know how big is that side. So I'm going to call it y. So I couldn't call it x because I'm already using x. So I know 11.1 squared is 123.1. And then 13.8 squared is 190.44. So let me write this as y squared plus 123.1 is equal to 190.44. Let me get rid of the 123.1. I get 67.34. So y squared is 67.34. So that means that y, but I'm going to get the square root of it, y is equal to 8.2. We're not quite done yet. I needed to solve for x, not y. I know once again this is 8.2, but I know y plus x. So let me write this y plus 8.2 plus x. Right, I'm adding those two, and I know that's a radius. And I'm gonna let this equal to 13.8. Y plus x, it's a radius. So I'm gonna let it equal to 13.8. So let me subtract 8.2. So I'm gonna get that x is equal to 5.6. Some cases, mainly on the back, some cases, you guys will have to figure out for a y before you guys solve for x. Okay, I'm calling it y because we already used the letter x. If you don't know how big is it, call it a letter. So I'm calling it 1. Let me do one of those. Again, let me take a look at number 10. I'm going to complete my triangle here. This is 19.8. I know the radius is 19.8 from here. This third side of the triangle, let me call it y because I don't know how big is it. So I'm going to write down the y squared plus 17.1 squared is equal to 19.8 squared. So I'm looking at the three measurements of the triangle. So I'm going to write y squared plus 292.41 equals 392.04. So let me subtract that 292.41. I get that y squared. Let me subtract that. I get that y squared is 99.63. So y must be 10. And so I rounded up to the nearest tenth. It was like 9.98, so I actually made it 10. So we know y is 10. So now looking at this part, that's the radius. I'm just going to say 10 plus x is equal to 19.8. X must be 9.8. Once again, you might have to solve for y before you solve for an x. Did that make sense? I think the work is not that bad. It's just probably a little tedious. Just do notice, like in number 12. Let me take a look at number 12. Do notice that 31.2 is by the point. So I'm saying the whole diameter is 31.2. So the radius, half of that should be 15.6. The radius. And so looking at 12, the 31.2 is in the center. So that is the length of the whole diameter. So the diameter is 31.2. The radius should be 15.6, which is the half of it. All right. Any questions? No? Let me take hold really quick.